Deputy Leader portfolio. We have one item on the agenda, which is Hoot Credit Union, purchase of deferred shares. Phil, are you taking us through this report?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Leader. So this is a report that I'm bringing on behalf of the Borough Treasurer, and the report is with regard to a proposal to buy £100,000 of deferred shares in Hoot Credit Union. So the report provides an introduction and a background to the credit union as an organisation in Bolton. So it gives some background to the type of work they do, particularly the value in the community. And it also provides some details of why they currently find themselves in a difficult situation financially. They previously received quite a significant amount of funding through Bolton at Home, who effectively provided the staffing. That funding has been withdrawn. And so they're seeking an investment of £100,000 in deferred shares to support the capital position. And that's as a result of a period of deficit caused by the removal of the funding from Bolton at Home. So the investment of deferred shares would still sit as an asset both to the credit union and to the council. And there's some further details about that in Appendix 3. So I think basically there are two options, I suppose, that we're looking at as a council and looking for a decision on. Option one would be that the council was to decline the request to invest £100,000. I think the view is that in the event that we decline the request, there is uncertainty as to whether the credit union will be able to continue its operations, and that a failure of the credit union would reduce access to affordable finance to persons and businesses, mainly to increased economic inequalities in the borough, leading to increased demand on council services. Option two would be that the council agrees to the request to invest £100,000 in deferred shares to support the continued provision of services to residents and businesses in the borough, using the money from the council's corporate reserves to fund the purchase of the shares. The report does note that it's not certain that this investment would guarantee the continued operation of the credit union, but I think the position is that we feel that the investments in the shares would secure their position, certainly in the short term. And the purchase will be undertaken on the basis that it's a long-term investment. And as I say, the shares would still be held on the council's balance sheet as an asset. Really, that's the decision for ECM. It's whether we go ahead and we make £100,000 investment in the deferred shares. I'm quite happy to take questions.
Thanks, Phil. Councillor Warren.
Thank you, Chair. I want to start first off by just saying I'm incredibly supportive of credit unions. I have a background in banking. You know, I know the value that credit unions have. I want to say thank you as well to Phil, because he had a number of questions that I emailed last week that he's answered, which is very helpful to me. I do have quite a number of concerns. I don't think the report is in depth enough regarding the investment that's required. I have done quite a lot of kind of background research on Hoots, on their last few years' statements of accounts and things like that as well. So I've got a number of questions regarding that. So my first one is why Fair for All declined the application for 150,000. I think that's quite an important one. I have noticed from their yearly accounts as well, it's normally September to September. So obviously 2025 hasn't been done yet. They're not on their website, but last year's are. And the savings amounts have decreased. The loan amounts have increased, but the customers have decreased, and they've decreased quite substantially over the last 2 years as well. You've also then got the deficit of 48,000 last year, which could have been explained by the removal of the Bolton at Home staff. But obviously, we're a number of months into that. If their business kind of planning was basically the Fair for All, it's what they're going to do kind of moving forward as well. There is also, obviously, I've got a little bit of a concern about no voting rights on the board, which was confirmed by Phil as well, that we will basically just be one of the 6,000 members, which is the number that Phil confirmed, even though last year on their accounts, their number was 7,117, 2022 it was 7,841. So there has been quite a decrease in customer numbers as well. But yeah, I've got those accounts as well. One more question as well, just regarding the amount in reserves. So on their account sheet, they don't have a lot of money actually in the bank. They have customer savings in the bank, which is 2.4 million, but obviously that's used in the nature of what a credit union is. There isn't actually a lot of reserves that they hold themselves. The reason that I ask these questions is that I know credit unions are very valuable, and I know that they have a very important role. Nationally, the numbers have increased of the amount of people that use credit unions, but they've decreased in Bolton and Bury, which is where Hoot operates. And a lot of what credit unions have having to be done, they've had to merge. And so another question is, if they merge with another organisation, another credit union in Greater Manchester, which there are a number in the future, what would happen to the deferred shares as well? I know there's a lot of questions there, so I apologise, but thank you.
Thank you.
That's absolutely fine. Well, I think we anticipated that there might be more questions we need to ask of the credit union following ECM today. I mean, I noticed in the report that it makes reference to the fact that the credit union is looking at other potential investors and funders. We have had a conversation with them, and it's a conversation that's been had over a number of years now about how we can support them as a council to build a membership. Because I think clearly one of the difficulties is they need a certain level of membership to fund the loans. I think the issue with the reserve is one of the reasons why they're looking for this investment, because I think some of the vulnerability lies in the fact that they've got a low reserve. And so that obviously, where the regulators are concerned, is an issue, and is one of the reasons why they've approached us as a council. But there are certainly issues that you've raised, Councillor Warren, that we'd probably need to go back to the credit union on to get some further assurance.
And one thing about the board, Phil, I was thinking, Councillor Morrissey is on credit union board, isn't he?
Yes.
And he represents the council on that board.
Yes.
So when they say that the council will not have voting rights on the board, he doesn't have voting rights, does he not?
Well, I know that Councillor Morris is a member of the board. I think what they're saying is we would have voting rights at their annual, at their AGM, but not through the board.
Right.
But Councillor Morrissey is a board member.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thanks.
Sorry, sorry, David.
Yeah.
Councillor Grant. Sorry, he was next to speak. Sorry.
Sorry, Chair. I thought you changed my last name there. First of all, Adele has covered quite a lot of what I was going to say. It was quite an in-depth read through there. I'd like I said, like Adele, I'm incredibly supportive. I think they keep people out of the hands of loan sharks and higher interest organisations. We don't want to see those back in our high streets. But similarly to Adele, I am concerned that, particularly with your words there, Phil, that certainly in the short term, this will help shore them up. Well, what about the medium to long term? Again, I would like to point out that if they do fail, we pretty much lose our money. And as Adele pointed out, again, we don't have any say in the direction of that business to ensure that it does survive. So I am concerned. Of course, we're positive. We want to keep them on our high street. We want to keep supporting those who rely on them heavily. But for me, right now, I'm just a bit concerned about how this looks, particularly if it fails. Of course, not quite to the same levels, but when I was over in Bury, you had the Barings Bank issue and the Icelandic banks, and where councils were loaning, that sounded like a good deal or help prop people put things up. But banks do fail. And if we've not got any security or guarantees, then that's the taxpayers' money being used to prop up a bank effectively. As good a bank as it is, that would be my concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. And I think that's why the Borough Treasurer really wanted to make it very clear in the report that there are risks So, you know, we're certainly not saying that that £100,000 investment doesn't come without a certain level of risk, and I think the report's quite clear on that. But obviously, we find ourselves in a position where they've approached us. They clearly need some financial support at the moment. We would give a commitment to the credit union to support them. We work quite closely with them really through, for example, our cost of living offer. They've worked in partnership with us on a number of things, and we're very keen for them to grow the membership. But I absolutely accept, Councillor Grant, that, you know, there are no guarantees, and I think the Borough Treasurer's been quite clear in the report to sort of point that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Councillor Wilkinson?
I agree with the points which have been made. Concerns about where we're going. One question, if I could ask, because of what we've actually already discussed, why was this not a Part B item? The reason
Ricky?
why I say it's Part B,
Yeah.
I have to say I would be more questioning of the report and maybe the direction, etc. This is a recorded meeting, which people do see, believe it or not. And I think it would have been better, this is me personally, also for the organisation, if we'd been in Part B. There may be a reason why, but that's just my opinion at this moment in time. My other question is, if the matter was deferred, what is the implications for the organisation? Do they need the money literally now? Or if they do, I'm okay. Well, I have concerns, but I think already been expressed about our fallback position. And the other thing is, I would like to see a very in-depth report about where we are, what Bolton and Tom did. It's just, you know, they just seem to have walked away, taking the staff off and the funding. Where the organisation's going, as Adele's quite rightly said, about numbers, about balances, etc. There's a whole load of technical questions which need to be looked at and discussed, but I don't think they should be discussed in open because of the implications which could be claimed if the meeting is in public, because I believe the organisation needs some discretion. So I'd just like to know where we are in terms of approving the money. Does it need to be done literally now? And can we come back to this? Whether it's I mean, I don't want scrutiny, because scrutiny, I think it take forever and more. And of course, we wouldn't in Part B. I would, if it's possible, a Part B item, Actor, at one of your future meetings, so we can, you know, have more in-depth information of who, what, why, when, where, how much, where's this going, etc. So we have I think a bit more confidence than what we've probably mentioned so far.
So in terms of it being Part B, can I bring Vicky in before I go back to Phil and then Councillor Warren?
Yeah, thanks, Deputy Leader. We did check it out with the Borough Treasurer before we published it, and we also checked it out with the Borough Solicitor, and because it is talking about council finances, we felt it was in the public's interest to know where that money was going, if it's going. I don't know if Phil wants to come in terms of urgency, but I have seen an email to say that to do with the close of accounts, which, as Adele's already raised, is the end of September.
Right.
For the regulator to be happy. And yes, I agree. If the Deputy Leader does agree today, we could always put it subject to, and we could ask Hoot to come in to either an informal briefing for members, or just an informal briefing of ECN to have a complete update on the situation.
Yeah, I mean, it is a pressing financial issue for Hoot. There's no question about that.
Yeah. Thanks, Vicky. Councillor Warren.
Thanks. everything that I mentioned and the numbers is all information that's in the public domain.
Yeah.
So it's all information that Hoot has actually got on their website. You know, so there was nothing that I said that wasn't confidential.
No, I didn't think there were, Adele.
Yeah, no, I just didn't want anyone thinking that, you know, like
No, not at all.
Yeah.
No.
got a bag of cats. But I do think in terms of the report, that, you know, I know it's taxpayers' money, and ultimately, you know, like as councillors, we have to do what's right with taxpayers' money. And I know that if it was my money and I had that level of information on that report, would I invest? And I wouldn't. You know, so would I expect a return based on the information that I've found and that I've seen on the report? No, I wouldn't. So it's a case of kind of like, if we're doing this as kind of like looking after the taxpayer, it's a case of, I mean, the report mentions, you know, like robust growth targets and robust growth plans. Well, what are those? You know, if you're coming, if you think of like Dragon's Den and you were coming for someone to invest and to buy into your business, so to speak, even though it's taxpayers' money and it's, you know, public finances, you would come with this is what we're going to do. This is why, you know, like we need this to grow. We need this to remain. This is why you know, we have so many customers. This is what we do for residents in the borough. And that just is so lacking in the report. And I do worry that it's kind of, I mean, I don't know when this was first brought to the council's attention, but with their reporting period, kind of September to September, and a few kind of grant applications that have kind of not been successful, it's not very forward planning on behalf of the organisation.
Yeah, I mean, sorry.
Yep. Go on, Phil, come on.
No, I was just going to say that obviously over the last number of months we have been gathering quite a lot of information from Hoot. So, you know, Graham has obviously been asking them for accounts and further information because we wanted to carry out a certain level, obviously, due diligence on it. And Graham will probably be better able to explain that to you. But I don't think this is something that Graham's viewed lightly. So I think he has probably been looking at the information that's been provided for some time to try and provide reassurance for himself that this was something we wanted to bring in front of members. I think what's happened, obviously, is that they haven't received that £150,000 investment they were looking for. They are looking at other possible investment opportunities. But I think they have reached a point now where they're basically saying to us that without that investment, it does leave them financially vulnerable. But I absolutely appreciate, as members, you're going to have questions about that. And I think that's right. And it's the reason we're at ECM tonight. I mean, I don't know whether there's a possibility of coming back in the next few weeks, Vicky. I mean, it will mean another special ECM, really, if we went down that route. But I suppose that's something we could consider.
So the key principle here is, as Councillor Warren mentioned, credit unions play a very important role, especially for people who are in economic hardship and in other very difficult circumstances. Now, what we are trying to deal with is an organisation potentially going under if we do not intervene. So, in principle, I am very comfortable with the idea of supporting the credit union, and due to the urgency of the situation, and I am fully aware of the risks associated with this investment. But what I am looking at is, if we do not invest in this way in this organization is going to disappear, and I wouldn't like to see that. So in principle, I am okay with that, but I think there are some very valid questions that we need to ask, and I think it would be helpful if we could get the credit union in to talk to myself to give answers to some of those questions. And subject to that happening, I will be happy to approve this report today, because it needs to be done by the end of this month. We are only 2 weeks away from end of this month, So I think I'm happy to do that if that can happen. I don't know, Phil, how who will come in to do that.
I'm absolutely sure the chief executive would be more than happy to come in and speak to members
Yeah.
to try and provide those assurances.
Yeah. Councillor Warren?
Unfortunately, I don't think assurances should be made after the decision. I think they should be made before. So because of that reason, unfortunately, I will be calling in the decision.
Right. Okay. That's fine. Thank you. Yep. Vicky?
Sorry, Deputy Leader, I know what Councillor Warren has just said, but maybe to avoid it being called in, we could do what Phil was talking about, which is defer the item.
Right.
I know it's got to be determined before the end of September, but I'm pretty sure we could get another ECM in before the end of September. Graham Wilson, the Borough Treasurer, will be back off holiday, and we can get either written submission from the CEO of Hoot to sort of answer the questions that have been raised, and then that would at least give members reassurances before you actually take the decision, if that's acceptable.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I'm more bothered about the organization and the impact this might have on the organization. So if that can happen, I'm happy to sort of rearrange it and to avoid that call in, because if it was called in, then we haven't got the time to deal with the call in within the next 2 weeks. I'm not worried about going to the scrutiny and defending that decision. It's just the timing issue. So if we can organize another ECM meeting where these questions, or before that meeting, if we can address some of those questions, some of those queries, then yeah, I'm happy to do that.
I mean, what would be very useful for me is if you could send me those questions that you've raised today, or any other questions you might have, and I'll contact the chief executive first thing in the morning, because we'd need to book an ECM in fairly quickly, wouldn't we, Vicky? If that's okay with everybody.
Yeah. Councillor Warren?
I do really appreciate that, and I know I appear a little bit like a stickler, and I really don't want Hoot to fall, but I also don't want this to just be a stopgap for a few months, because ultimately it's about the people that use those services, and it's absolutely pointless just throwing 100 grand at something for it to then fail because they've not put the things in place that need to be put in place. So I do appreciate the deferring. It's not my intention to obviously make anything happen to Hoot. Ultimately, I want them to succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you, Councillor Warren, I used to work in social enterprise sector. I know how difficult it is to set up a credit union, and it will really be very sad if we lost Hoot in Bolton going forward, because at the end of the day, a lot of people will be suffering as a result of that. So I am happy for it to be deferred to next week. So I'll sort of liaise with Vicky to arrange that meeting in the next sort of week or so. But if you could, any question that you may have, Councillor Warren, Councillor Wilkinson, and Councillor Grant, and Councillor Sanders, if you could send those in to Phil, and by all means copy myself in, and then we can take it from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I hope you all have a nice evening.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Speak to you soon.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.
Bye.